And first of all, thanks to everyone for attending. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces with us today. For those of you who are new to these webinars, my name is Brian. I'm the Associate Product Manager. So all I do really is guide the development on the CRM. And a lot of what I do is meeting with our users and potential users to make sure that what we're building hits the mark. And for those of you that have been on a few of those CRM conversations already, pleasure to see you guys again. I'm sure you're getting sick of my face, so here's a floating head for you guys. Then I'll hand it over to my co-host James.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm James. I'm working with Brian on the CRM here. I'm sure I know a lot of you guys also, but I have a background in construction. I can definitely relate to what a lot of you guys do day to day. So between Brian and myself, hopefully we can kind of show you what's going on here and see if there's a good fit anywhere.
All right, cool. Thank you for that intro. Now, I'm sure the title Death to Double Entry caught a lot of you guys' eyes. The focus of today's webinar is really just to do a live demo from start to finish of a project in our CRM. A big part of our system is the belief that once you type something in once, you should never have to type it in again. And so while we were planning the system, we would hear stories about sales teams and estimators that would do really hard work, like making flawless bids and takeoffs. And then they have to turn around and spend 30% of their day just getting that data from one system to the next. And so with that in mind, a lot of this demo is really going to focus on how we cut corners on that area and really make it, a seamless system. Now, before we dive into the demo, which is really going to be, the meat of this webinar, I wanted to set the stage for what we are covering. In the demo, we'll be running through a commercial project from the second you get an ITB all the way through takeoff and the bidding process, then through project management and billing. And then we'll show off how we can move that data into your various accounting systems where you'd finish the rest of the job there. Along the way, James and I will pass this project back and forth using tasks, emails, bid calendars, and different parts of our CRM, just to show how the CRM makes it easier to work with your team. And we'll be building a takeoff from scratch, but to avoid having you guys sit through an estimate with us, we'll be showing off some cool features there. And we'll be building a pretty simple project. We're going to skip over things like change orders and alternates, but just know that those are all part of the system. And so if you want to, our last webinar was actually about change orders, and we actually have videos on YouTube about both alternates in the CRM and change orders in the CRM as well. All right. So we'll move over to the demo side of the process, and this is really going to be where we're focusing. We'll get started with my screen share here of the homepage, and just double checking, James, it is the CRM, right? It's not still in the slideshow.
Yep, looks good.
Perfect, perfect. So I'll do a brief explanation of what we're looking at here, and then we can go ahead and get started. But this is really your bid calendar, your sort of home screen of all the different projects that you're going to be working on with your team. The way this works is we have different stages for each project, and as a project progresses, you're really just dragging it across these columns here. Each of these boxes represents everything related to a project. So that will be emails, notes, internal conversations, takeoffs, external files, or order forms. And so we're going to be building one of those projects in our system, and that's going to be the home base with where we're doing a lot of the work that we're going to create. So first things first, we're going to start with an ITB. Now we do some importing in connections with things like Building Connected or Plan Grid, where you can bring in those plans for you. But for this example, we're just going to say that, I received an email. It's from, a GC with a good relationship that we have. I'm just going to name this project CRM webinar. Typically, you put like a project name, a job site, etc. I'm going to go ahead and build a contact for you. And a really cool thing is, I can go ahead and build contacts and companies just from the start. Call this webinar GC. Click save and click save. And typically when I'm building a project for the first time, I wouldn't fill in all these fields. It's almost overkill to fill in everything from interested projects and description and all that right from the get-go. Typically, I'd fill these up as I continue my project down the line or as it gets more serious. I'm also going to leave the amount to zero, and you'll see how that fills in later on. But if I wanted to, I could manually input, a projected total amount for the project if I wanted to keep track of that as well. And I will put in a bid due date. So this area is custom fields that we've actually built into our system, and for anyone who's on our system, they might not see these fields, so they could add them themselves. It's just a way for you guys to add extra customization into our CRM. So I'll go ahead and click save. And here we have pretty much the homepage for this project. As I go through with building bids, adding takeoffs, it'll all show up on this screen. There's no need for me to search through my email inbox or anywhere else for any of that stuff. And just to get started, we'll say in this case, James is my estimator, my sales guy. Um, so the first thing I want to do is actually assign tasks to him, just to make sure that we're on the same page. I can see if something's falling behind, who's in charge of that. And typically, let's say I'm running, hundreds of commercial jobs. I don't want to have to enter in the same 10 tasks every time. I've actually made a template of several tasks that summarize the bidding process. Go ahead and pull those into the system. Here we have all those tasks pretty much start to finish of how I would run a bid. And all I need to do here is actually just assign these to James and put a due date on them. So let's see, this under James. Start date, we'll make that today. We'll even put a time as well. A really cool thing about this part of the system is it'll actually sync up with your Microsoft Outlook calendar or your Google Calendar. So not only is James being put on this task, but it's going to show up on his calendar if he opens up, Google Calendar or anything like that. And I can even go so far as to ping him. And this will actually also send an email and a notification as well. It'll just say, hey, Brian, message you related to this project. It'll give him a link to it. So a lot of different ways to communicate across my team. And then the last thing I'll do before I hand this over is I'll build a new diagram. And this is what you'd see in MeasureSquare 8. I'm actually going to set him as the owner. And then I'll let him take it away to show you the sort of estimating side from the CRM.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay. Brian, can you see this screen here?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right, guys. So right where Brian left off, I'm the estimator, right? So now I have my project. I have a note in here, some tasks, and this blank diagram. So what I'm going to do is edit this diagram, do my actual takeoff. And you do have the ability to do that in the CRM with our new M2 web system. But just following the workflow of most of our customers, I'm going to do this within my MeasureSquare 8. So I'm going to click this Open with M2 button here. Okay, so when I open this one up, so I am in my blank project here, and essentially now I would be at the point where I'm going to import my plans and do my takeoff. So just to speed this along a little bit, I'm just going to paste the plan over to here, and I'm going to import some items that I pre-built, and we can quickly go through those. But I just don't think it's worth it to spend a bunch of time creating items and loading in plans and such. So for this particular one, we'll use the auto takeoff. I don't know how many of you guys have tried out this feature before. It's gotten a lot better recently. I'm just basically using it for speed purposes. But at this point, we've made a lot of improvements in our AI, and it is pretty accurate. So in this case, looks like we have 23 rooms created, and this is looking pretty good. Looks like a couple of errors with some walls up here. Easily rectify these. And then we missed a couple rooms, AI. Come on. What are you doing over there? Let's just draw these up quickly. Okay. So this is good enough for me right now. Still got to put in some doors and stuff like that. But essentially, now I'm at the point where I would add my products, right? Also, I guess I don't know if you guys have been using this OCR feature. So now you have the ability to select text. I could copy this. But okay, so now we have all of our products built. We copied and pasted our details over to our descriptions. And now I just want to apply some products over to this diagram. Bear with me for just a sec here, guys. All right, something like that's going to be good enough. There's some of this base in there as well. Okay, so now we essentially have our diagram. All of our rooms are drawn. All of our products have been applied. within these products, a few of these fields become much more significant now that you're using the CRM. The first one I want to bring to your attention here is your vendor. So entering this vendor into MeasureSquare 8 into your Takeoff here allows the CRM to automate, your process of price requests, purchase orders, any processes that involve your vendor are going to require this field to be filled out in order to really automate them. So that's an important field. You can manage your list of vendors right here, and then the CRM has its own contact database just for vendors. In addition, we want to look at our trade field. So the CRM has a few ways to use your trade that will also assist with automations and organization and reporting and stuff like that. So this is another field you really want to take note of now that you're using the CRM. Beyond that, just some basic product knowledge stuff. So in the CRM, we want to have one line for every single item that you're going to purchase or sell. So I've seen people, for tile, for example, maybe you have grout and thin set in one item, or you include that in your tile price. We want to do that a little differently now that we're using the CRM. Giving each of these items its own line not only saves you time in terms of the system calculating these quantities for you, but now each line can be identified separately and used on your purchase orders, work orders, stuff like that. Lastly, we have this sell by section on the right side. I know some people use this, some people do not. This is going to help you a lot as well in the CRM. So now, for thin set, for example, so the system already knows how many square feet of thin set you need, right? That's its job. If you tell the system, hey, I have a 50-pound bag, that's going to go 45 or 50 feet per bag. Now, instead of giving you a square foot quantity, the system on your purchase order can give you a quantity of bags, which is, as you know, what you need. So, just a couple quick notes there about your products and how you want to set those up to really foster that automation within the CRM. So this, as far as I'm concerned, is essentially a complete project. And if you guys remember, we actually opened this right from the CRM initially. You could see up here, there's this weird cloud project designation. But if I click save at this point, it's a little different than a normal save. So now this actually says, do you want to continue to MeasureSquare CRM? And when I click yes there, this will bring me right into the CRM with that updated diagram. And I'm ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be making your proposal. And with that, Mr. Brian, would you like to share your screen on this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm going to pick up right where he left off. I'm going to share screen real quick. But you can see, a big thing about what we were emphasizing was that number one is those changes that you send over are pretty much instant. If I open up this diagram area, what was once a blank thumbnail now has all the data he's entered. And just like to reiterate what he was saying, using the CRM does require a bit of retreading on the MeasureSquare 8 side. But the idea is that the more legwork you do on that side, the easier everything is down the ways. That's part of the reason why he'll break out things like labor and thin set by line item. It helps with purchasing and work orders down the way as well. So what I'll do first is I'll click into here, show you guys some of those changes as well. And I can even get a quick view of the products he's brought into there. I'm sorry, I'm clicking on that. And if I go back, you'll see that I have this section of our project called products. What I'll do is I'll actually import everything that he's estimated from that diagram into this area here. And this is where you're going to keep a tab of everything that you're going to have on the project as change orders come in, as bids get revised. And it's also where you're going to handle pricing, which is a really big part of the system. And that's what we're going to cover next. A really cool thing is also, as you'll note, those vendors that he put in help me down the line with organizing these products by vendors. So when it comes time to purchase, I can quickly just click and say, hey, give me all the Armstrong products or etc. So we have all those products here. You'll see we list not just the product, but cost price, sales price, a lot of financials. And you'll see this little tag that says standard price. Really quick, let's say I want to send out a project-specific pricing request. I can go ahead and highlight whatever products that I want. A button will appear for a price request. And without having to do any real legwork, I can build an email. It'll send to my vendor. And it'll even bring in name, description, quantity, or anything like that automatically for me. We could also change these templates as well. Customization is the name of the game for this. So if I wanted to, automatically include things like architect or specifier. I could build that into the system as well. And if I put that vendor into my vendor book, it would fill in their order form or contact email automatically. But for this case, I'm actually going to email it out to James just to show off how that gets tracked. So from here, I'm sending an email, and I think a big question you guys have is, oh no, is this going to send from like a generic MeasureSquare.com email? It'll actually send out from my linked Google account or from my linked Microsoft email. We have ways to integrate both of those systems into it. And another really cool thing is that every email that I send out, that James sends out, that like a project coordinator would send out, will show up in this area. That way, if I was sick tomorrow, James could hop in, see that the vendor gave a price quote, and he could pick up from where I left off. And real quick, we're actually going to put in some specific pricing for these. So let's say for all three of these, we got special pricing. I could just click into it. I can click this edit button here, and let's say that they quoted me at a lower price. And we'll say it expires in a month. And we'll say for the next one down here, we'll say the co-former, they give us that for a really good price, but it expires in a couple of days. So just like that, I've built in two of my price requests with special pricing. It'll actually show that it's job specific now. It'll also show the expiration date of that pricing. You can see here it's glowing yellow. A really cool thing is once we hit June 30th, this will glow bright red, just so I know not to purchase with that. The idea there is that we're getting rid of the chances of you bidding at one price and then you turn around and purchase and everything's gone up and your margins are gone. Another really cool part of the system is we hear a lot about purchasers who, their whole job is sending out dozens and dozens of these price requests a day, and then a month later they have to find one specific price request for one specific job. A really cool part of the system is if I click right here, I could actually find that exact email, that exact thread with a response for what it said, without having to do anything. It'll sort those emails for me. And so we'll move from here to building out a bid from that diagram. Now that we have our pricing in place, now that we have our products in place, I'll hand it back to James and I'll show you how to build a bid in our system, and then we'll get running from there.
All right, thank you, Brian. So just to pick up where he left off, once again, we're trying to illustrate the handoffs that actually happen during these projects, right? So now I'm going to be actually creating my bid. I'm sorry, it's the wrong project. And here we go, CRM webinar. All right, so now I'm in my same project where Brian entered his product, and I want to create a proposal. You can make a quote or a bid. Those are some separate types of proposals that we have. The bid is a little nicer, and that's the one we're going to be showing you guys today. So I'm going to click that blue add button. All my project information is automatically brought in there. And then this will bring us to our bid screen. So a little disclaimer here, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of functionality. And during training, we will spend a full hour just on this bid and its functionality, sometimes even more than that. This looks kind of blank right now, but I do want to bring to your attention this top bar here. So we have three parts of this bid module. We have a worksheet. Second part is customer and document information. And then we have our bid preview. So first things first here, we're going to bring items into our bid. There's a few different ways to do that, and I'm just going to import them from the diagram in this case. And I'll check this little box to group products by trade, which gives me these little categories based on the trade field that we spoke about earlier. So if I click OK, it'll just take a second to load in all my items, and here they are. Here is my entire project. As mentioned, we have those trade groups, and those are going to be directly based on the trade field from back in MeasureSquare. So this trade field is going to precisely determine these groups here. To dive a little deeper than just the group, we have two items under here, and then I have another plus sign within these items where I can actually see my associated add-ons as well. So right now it looks like we have 0% margin, not ideal. So I'd like to start marking up some of these items. These columns, guys, you can customize these columns. You can add new columns, you can remove columns, and you can actually build in formulas to create these columns, kind of like Excel. This is a bit of a thick system here. I don't want to get into the details of this, but you can manipulate these numbers heavily. So yes, we have everything in here. We're going to need to apply some kind of markup or margin. I can easily do that here line by line. Alternatively, maybe you want to just set a global margin or global markup. That's going to be down here where I can kind of just, this is going to be just for materials here. So we can apply our 30% margin to materials. And then maybe for labor, it's going to be something like 35%. Okay, so applying those, you'll see now all these items have gotten updated based on their item type, material or labor. And now we're starting to look a lot closer to a real bid. You can also put in alternates here. In the interest of streamlining this, we're going to gloss over that one for now. At the bottom here, we have a few more number adjustments, overhead, discount, tax, and then these are custom fees, which you can type whatever you'd like in here. This says bonding for now, so if I want a bond at 3%, maybe it's a $2,000 bond instead. So you can type in the dollar amount there. You can also actually just type in the percentage. So this is going to be a two-way street, and you can choose what this fee is being applied to, just material, just labor, or everything. So that's a quick run through of our worksheet. This is your back end view. This is something that your customer is never going to put eyes on. Just the people who are building your bid, assembling those details are going to be the ones editing this. And you can edit any of these fields. Very easy. You can add blank lines if you'd like to just add a line for freight or something like that. A lot of possibilities here. So let's move on to the second tab, customer and document info. Very straightforward here. This is the smallest of the three tabs, but you have your basic project info that's pulled from that project. You can add site photos. You can attach files. Your diagrams are going to be automatically brought in, similar to just like your MeasureSquare 8 screenshots. You can bring in 3D diagrams and wall pictures as well for those situations. So we do have a few text fields here, such as scope of work. Have some text ready to just paste in here, make that a little easier. Below that, we have our inclusions and exclusions. These are cool because they're library based. So you could see just by default, I have 5 exclusions included on here. And then if I browse my library, I have a couple more that I could add just by clicking. And of course, you can always create a new exclusion. The advantage here being that you're only going to have to create that once, and it will be set for the remainder of the time you're using the system. And beyond that, we have our project notes. Put something in there. We have another field down here for terms and conditions. This one's also library based. So within your settings, you can set up multiple terms and conditions and just choose one of them and it'll insert that for you. Lastly, we just have a field for customer notes. Okay, so now we filled in all of our document info. Let's get over to that bid preview, which is going to be the customer facing, front end of your bid. So this is another screen where there's too much functionality to really fully cover it. But basically, this is your default bid, but you have a lot of play in terms of what you're showing here. So to mess around with that, I'm going to go up to my design button. So once I click that design button, you can see, so we have a pretty robust interface here. It kind of looks similar to like a Word program. You can insert images, tables, all kinds of stuff. You can insert project data. So for example, I can insert my project contact and this will adapt to whatever project you're on. So this will fill in the contact from whatever project I am currently on. Similarly with any of this stuff, I could insert my alternate somewhere at 3D. So you can really take any of the data that's associated with this project and just insert it as you need. And in addition to that, so you can perfect that system, right? And then you're going to save it as a template. So whether you want to make one version of your bid that's absolutely perfect and have every person on your team use that, or if you want to create a couple different versions, maybe one for a big client that you have, one is for bidding, one is for smaller return customers, you do have that ability within the template section where you can have multiple templates. All right, so from there, we have our cover page. We would like to make this look a lot nicer, and we do have that ability. I'm just not going to cover it right now, but you can, you can add, delete any of this stuff. You can drag and drop components of this. So it really is very, very customizable in here, guys. So getting down to our numbers, I already know half the people on here are like, oh man, I don't want to show them my carpet adhesive. Well, I don't blame you. So, so right now, if you look, so we have a CPT1 Shaw at $4,200. Under that, we have an adhesive and a labor line. So our first option here is we can roll these add-ons up into that main price of $4,200 with this merge add-ons tool. So if I click that, oh, and I went a little too far there. So now that 4,200 turned to a $5,000, and those three items were actually rolled up into just one, just into that parent product. First way to consolidate this data. Secondly, you notice these groups that we spoke about earlier: carpet, tile, vinyl, wall base. We can just show those groups if we'd like. So a little simpler there. And then to take it one step further, I know a lot of you guys just want to show that lump sum. We can easily do that as well. And we can just keep on whittling this thing down until there is nothing left for your one number, and in this case, the bonding that I added. All right. And just to kind of show you what these templates can end up looking like, we have let's see, we had one of our guys make up a nice little colorful one here. And this is still a simple example, but it does illustrate exactly what we want, what we can do here, right? You do have a lot of play in terms of how this ends up looking. So you can do all kinds of stuff. You can set background colors, logos. You can add tables to make little sections like this. Really a lot you can do there. Okay, so I'm going to save this particular design. Looks pretty good. And now this is a finished bid. I'm going to just send this out. So this is very simple within our system. And actually, let's see, yeah, let me just send this one out here. I'm going to send it over to Brian. All right, so sending this out, by default, you have this web-based bid, which is advantageous. As many of you guys know, we track the status of these documents. So if you utilize this web-based bid, then your customers will have to click View Bid, and you can actually see when they viewed it and when they've signed it and approved it and such. You also have the option to attach this PDF, but if they decide to only use the PDF, you lose that tracking functionality. All right. So now I sent out my bid. You can see on the right-hand side, this says sent. And if Brian were to go in and view this bid, it would actually let me know over here that this is viewed. And similarly, when it's approved, when it has an e-signature on it, it'll be marked as approved, which allows us to do all kinds of stuff here. And typically, to be honest with you, there is a ribbon in the top left of the bid that tracks the status here. But for some reason, I can't see it right now. So I'm just going to gloss.
Oh, it's because you're still in the design screen, I think. Is that right?
No, not in design anymore.
Oh, just refresh it real quick and it should reload.
Yeah, something with this template. I'm sorry, guys. But you can see, so I sent this out to Brian over here. Looks like he viewed it. And then if he were to sign it, it would actually say approved as well. So these statuses are typically tracked in the top left. And I'm just going to mark it as approved manually in this case. So once a bid is approved, it affects your project in a few different ways. And I think I'll hand this over to Brian so he can give you an overview of those.
All right. Let me go ahead and steal the show again. Perfect. And we can all see my screen, right? Is that right, James?
Yes, there it is.
Perfect. So I'm back in this main screen, and I do actually want to bring attention to a really good question I saw in the Q&A. The tasks you will have to manually update. So you can see I've actually in the background gone in and made these. And I could actually go in and just really quickly mark these as completed as I go through them. Let's see. And so you just do that to keep track of your projects. You can see the next one get assigned. And typically what I would do is when I'm done with my task, I would go to the next task down the list and assign it to James. And when he's done, he'll mark his as complete and pass it back to me. A couple other things I wanted to let you guys see is, number one, the stage was originally ITB. After we marked it as accepted, I actually moved it over to the bid accepted stage. Without typing anything in, it actually marks the amount of the project as updated. So if you remember, I set it to 0, I didn't really touch it. And just by having that bid become signed, the financials move into here. We also have accounts receivable, a profit, and sort of a layout of where the project is right now. And so what I'll do is I'll show you guys how to start. We'll assume that we've won the project. And we'll take the next couple steps. So number one is we want to start our SOV billing. So just sort of writing down what our accounts receivable should be. And then I'll build a purchase order and work order from that bid. You'll see how our system facilitates that. And then we'll update that SOV with our sort of first application. So just to get started, I'll click here. I'll create an SOV. And we covered this a lot in our past demo, so I don't want to go too in-depth into it. And I would typically pick the same GC from down here, but I want to type it in. I would also fill in these pieces of info, but just to keep it really quick, we're going to only put in what we need to. So now we're at the number sheet for our SOV. I'll scroll down a bit, and I could actually just import all the stuff from the bid I just built. I'll click OK. I can double check all my items and all the prices that I have them quoted at. And here we have our first SOV. And now another thing is, typically we don't want to show line items, just like we don't want to show them fully broken out on our bid. So what I can do really quick is I can add a group. And let's see, I'll just build one for VCT, and I'll just drag a bunch of items into it. And I won't do it for everything. I just want to show off that we can build groupings. So here we have our basic group, and you have a VCT one. I would add one for carpet, one for tile, hardwood, or anything like that as I go along. And then real quick, I just want to preview this. So we have our sort of zero-width application that just shows what we plan to work on. Now I'll head back into our project, and I'll actually dive into James's bid that he just built out. And from this screen, I can actually build my purchase order or work order. So for this case, I'm on that final screen where we have that nice design. I'll click order, and I'll click build purchase order. And now, like I was mentioning earlier, this will actually pull together the vendors as they were. So if I wanted to get all my Armstrong guys, I can just click right there and have them all together. I'll pull this over. And without having to think, my project data is up top. I'll throw in a vendor for it. And all those line items I brought in were at the bottom. So, what could be a 10, 20-minute task is now just a matter of seconds. I could add photos, files, anything like that if needed, as well as those notes from the bid. I'll go ahead and click save. And very similar workflow. There's the gray ribbon. If I were to email this out to my vendor, it would say sent. As they sort of mark and approve it, it would update that ribbon, give me little notifications when they've looked at it. And then we'll also track things like delivery date, partial deliveries, anything like that. For this case, I'll actually mark this as approved for later on, and that'll come into play during the SOV. And I'll actually go back to my project and do the same exact workflow with my work orders. So I'll go back into the bid. And if I wanted to, I could also build them straight from this page too, but I just want to show off that we can connect them to different documents so that, if you're trying to figure out where data came from, you can almost do like a backwards trail to figure out where your numbers are going. So here we have that purchase order that I've just built. I'll do the same again for a work order. You can see it separates labor and materials. When it brings in materials, it doesn't show pricing. It just lists out the products for your guys as they install. We also let you select by trade. So if you're saying, hey, I just want to send this to my tile guy, I could filter by tile, carpet, or wall base. For this case, I'm going to bring everything in. Same workflow as before. There's the project data up top, those labor items at the bottom, and I'll even bring in the diagram. A really cool part about this is that it's all color coded. So as my guys are installing, they can see exactly what matches up to what. There's no need to double check anything. I could also bring in my cut sheet if I need to. There's an area for instructions in case I need to leave notes like, don't park at XYZ spot, check in with these people once you get there, as well as terms and conditions. And the last thing I'm going to do is actually add this to an installer. So our system helps you manage both in-house and subcontracted installers without any extra cost. You don't have to make an account for them. And I'll just pick any one of these guys, and we'll go ahead and put him as a start date. We'll do this past Sunday. We'll say from 10 a.m. to, call it a quick job, 10 to 2. I'll click save. And the reason that I added that installer is I want to show off how that connects to our installation schedule. So that's a big part of project management is we'll help you manage your labor force and sort of planning where they need to be and when they need to be there. But just to show it off real quick, same workflow. I can email this to my installer. I can see if they viewed it. A really good feature is, waking up at 6 a.m., double checking that all my installers have viewed the documents I've sent them. So I'll hop over to my installation schedule, and it's going to show me all the different installers that I have in this system, both in-house installers as well as subcontracted installers. And so you can see I've actually built that work order, and it's showing up right here for Lincoln. And this is a pretty common run through where, I've overbooked this guy, I've got to move something over. I could move it over to Chet. And let's say Chet says, hey, I've got something at 12. Can you push it over to earlier? I could drag it over to 7 a.m. And without having to think, the work order is updated, the reminders are updated. I can even click into here and find that exact work order. And where it once said Lincoln, it now says Chet. Where it once said 10 a.m., it now says 7 a.m. So your project managers just need to almost do a jigsaw puzzle game with this screen here, and they can quickly find this out. There are a lot more features that I want to show off. For instance, you could filter by trade and say, hey, I just want to see my carpet guys or anything like that. But we'll actually keep this pretty focused. We'll go back into that project that we were just working on. And we'll fill in the first application. And I'll show you guys how to turn that into an invoice and how we'll carry that over to QuickBooks as well as other accounting systems down the line. So if I go back to my SOV, I'll create the next one. And we've had all of our previously bid information here. Now we're going to import in the purchase order we built, the work order that we built. So we'll start with the purchase order. A really cool part about the system is you could just pick the dates. So let's say I'm retroactively billing for the past month. I could just say, hey, give me every single PO from that month, and I'll bring it over. Another thing I do is import over my work orders. Same idea, I'll bring it over. And as I scroll through, you'll see you have all those line items are brought over, filled in automatically, and they even give you these little eye icons so that, let's say, GC says, hey, I don't know how you guys got these numbers for this past month. They're asking for some sort of proof. All I need to do is click the little eye icon, and it shows me exactly what PO it came from. I could send that to them and, cover my tail in terms of proving that I've done the work that I'm reporting. And of course, some people like to do their SOVs a little bit more subjectively. So they'd say, hey, I'm pretty sure we did 50% of these this month. Let's bill for that. You could also freehand type those in. If someone says, hey, we've done exactly 20 pieces, I could write that down as well. So, it gives you the option for automating stuff as well as the flexibility for manual work if you need it. And now that we've got our numbers done for this first application, I'll go to preview. You can see those numbers are brought in. And for a more in-depth tutorial of this, we also have a video on YouTube that covers this, and I could share that with anyone who mentions it in the Q&A afterwards. But now we have our finalized application form. Typically, I would email this out. I'd maybe download it and save it for myself. But what we'll do now is turn this into an invoice in our system. Just like our POs and work orders, it'll have all that stuff up top, brings in those line items as I need to, and we even bring in the ones that are unaffected at 0 amount, just in case you want to make any final adjustments. For this case, I'll go ahead and delete those. And we should be good to go. I've also built in some custom fields, so I'll put in a little example there, and I'll hit save. Now, the final thing I want to show off is how we connect this to QuickBooks. We have direct integrations with both QuickBooks and Xero Accounting, but we also do Excel imports, and our system will actually help you format it for different companies like Structure or Sage, where you can just let us know what import format they have, and we can make our system build it out to match that exactly. In this case, I'll actually go ahead and sync this over to QuickBooks with this one quick button. And a couple things to take note of. For instance, this invoice amount was, I believe, 28,887.26. Invoice number 65. And what I'll do is I'll pass it over to James. We'll say that, on top of being an estimator, James is also my accountant. And he'll actually be able to show you what that looks like on the QuickBooks side as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brian. All right. I'm going to share my screen in QuickBooks Online quickly. And let's see, looks like these are organized the wrong way, but we do have an invoice here from today. Webinar GC is the project. Let's see what this looks like. All right, opening up my QuickBooks invoice. Our customer info came in. We just didn't have an address or anything in there in this case, or an email. But all this stuff will come right into QuickBooks as well. But in terms of the items, it looks like every line item has come in, and maybe we could do like a side by side here. All right. So let's see what this invoice looks like. Okay. Yep. So you can see line by line, that comes right into QuickBooks just the way you need it. So the disadvantage in QuickBooks is you don't have units. They don't have square feet, square yards, anything like that. But with the pricing and the quantities and everything, it does make sense to transfer this in. So we have a lot of users that are using this, and we also integrate this way with a company called Xero, which is another great accounting system, a little simpler. And we have some Excel exports that are made or being made for several accounting systems and ERPs. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it, start to finish, guys. So the only input that you didn't witness yourselves was creating these items. And depending how you manage your product database, this really is not a hard task. It's not a long task to complete. You can have all these templates built out for you in your product database, and then as I showed you, just copy paste those descriptions right from the plans, and that's really not much. And then once that's done, I mean, that first initial input is carried all the way through the job, through your proposal, purchase orders, work orders, invoices, all the way to accounting. And that's in addition, we have change orders and alternates and stuff like that, which we didn't show you. But the point is, yeah, a double entry in this system is essentially dead.
All right, perfect. So that is pretty much the full run through. I'll hop back over to our slides real quick. Let me share that for you. All right. So now we're going to switch gears to Q&A. We covered a lot of stuff, so I'm guessing, there's going to be a lot of questions in chat. And I've already seen a couple really good ones. So just as a quick recap, we showed you how our system handles building a project from scratch, managing the sales, production, and billing on that project, and then all the various parts of the system like tasks and dashboards that help you along the way with that. So we'll switch gears to Q&A, and I see there's already a good question from Michael. He says, how do you account for payroll? We actually don't handle a payroll in our system yet. We typically leave that over to the accounting side. There's a couple things that we don't touch on as well as like inventory and submittals, but those will be added down the line. I saw a really good question about will CRM link to Job Tracker? Just for everyone who's not familiar with it, Job Tracker is our field management software. What that actually does is it lets you give your office team eyes on what the superintendents are reporting is complete. It'll give them access to diagrams as well. That's going to be integrated with our CRM down the line as well. Yes, the POs and work orders both import into QuickBooks with that same little button. So if you want to skip the SOV, the POs will import as purchase orders and the work orders will also import as purchase orders in QuickBooks. And then Drew Coleman, if you could just drop your email address in the Q&A and I can handle that as well.
SOV breakdown export. Yes. So that is on the way. We have gotten that request before, Rick, and it definitely makes sense. But no, unfortunately not yet, I don't think. Let me double check on that. But yeah, that's on the way.
Chris Harper's asking for the timeline on that. It should be in our newest update, and by that I mean it should be in Monday, I want to say. And I'll double check that for you guys right now.
And I think that, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, by default, everyone who's attending here does get emailed a copy of this webinar. Is that right?
That should be right. But if not, it's always nice or safer to drop an email in here and we can send it to you. I've got Drew Coleman's name, so if I need to, I can look him up as well and then double check that he gets that.
Yeah, Tom, good to see you. So yes, as long as you can import Excel, yes, we can link this. And this is something that we spoke to our developers about directly. And in most cases, we're going to be able to create these export links within a couple days, as a hot fix. So yes, if you can, from your ERP company, get the exact import format that they need, we can match that format so that you can just export an Excel that's already formatted and import it into your ERP without having to change it at all.
All right, for Chris, who's looking for a timeline on that sync, it should be July 1st. And then I'll let you know if anything gets delayed on that, but it should be July 1st.
So Zach, the columns in the price request, so those are going to be static right now. I would definitely love to take a look at how you guys use the system. But to be honest with you, typically people who switch over to the CRM, they do have to change the way that they do things in MeasureSquare 8 just a bit. So it's kind of the thing. It's the kind of thing where you'd have to weigh, hey, is this worth changing? How much time is this going to save us to change our process? And that's something that comes up a lot when introduced to the CRM.
All right, I see Kathy Palmer asked about, will we be able to export the pipelines or product list to Excel? It's not currently in the system, but for those of you who don't know, Kathy's one of our longtime users, and that's really good advice. So I can put that into our pipeline, and I can let you know when that would be part of the system as well. And then Tom Butler said, can the CRM be linked to JD Edwards ERP? It wouldn't be a direct link. If JD Edwards lets you import in Excel files, we could build that in, and that's a pretty quick change as well. All right. We'll give it about 10 more minutes just so we hit the full hour. But for everyone who's leaving, first of all, thank you guys so much for attending. We really appreciate you guys sticking around. And I do know it's a lot of familiar faces. I think some people reached out saying that they'd send their team over to watch. So pleasure to see you guys as well. I see. So assuming you use QB for payroll, how do you cost it into M2? I'm not too sure about this. I might actually have to reach out to my integration specialist. But James, do you have any tabs on how that would work? I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Michael or Mikkel, just to be honest with you, so yeah, that is on our list. That's on our ideal QuickBooks specification list, right? That having that two-way sync where not only is the CRM sending information to QuickBooks, but QuickBooks is sending information back. So that is going to happen. It's on a pretty long timeline, to be honest with you. It's just most of our people who want to track that really in-depth accounting stuff are going to do it within their accounting systems. So with that in mind, it's just not a very high priority for us right now to integrate that payroll analysis.
All right, and Mr. Butler's asking if I could show some of the sales metrics in the CRM. You're asking us at the right time. We're actually going to be upgrading this reporting system right now, but we already built in some basic sales reporting or metrics right here, just by sales rep, company source, things like that. And so the way this works is we pre-built them in, you click into it, and go ahead and expand this to the past year. And based on, when you've marked a project as complete or put it into a stage where it's 100%.
Test. Brian? All right. Well, looks like Brian's having some kind of issue. But yeah, so Tom, great question. Brian was going through one of these reports, very simple reporting module right now. Actually, next month, starting in a few days, reporting is our main focus for development. So we are going to have at least a dozen people just working on the reporting section. And I'd like to talk to your team in particular, Tom, to get the union perspective on some of that stuff while we are building it. So actually, maybe I'll send you an email right after this if you don't mind. Rick, what kind of price edition will CRM run? So that information is on our website, and I can send you a link to that, Rick, no problem. So that's going to be on MeasureSquare.com/CRM. Nice if data could flow to Power BI for customizable reports. Yeah, so I mean, Rick, that really is something that we're doing regularly. I have a few customers in here actually who we're doing that kind of stuff for. So it really is just a matter of getting that format over to us. I can work with them, with your ERP company or whoever, and get that exact format. And once we have that, it's very simple. So we've already implemented this for CF data in particular, where you can export your proposals right to CF data and just import them right in. It's a little less ideal than the QuickBooks integration we just showed you, but it's an extra 2 seconds per project. So really not too bad there. So I would say, Rick, if you can get their Excel import format, then we can definitely do that for you. All right. Anything else, guys, while we're here? Still got a few more minutes. Can we revisit the price request feature? Yeah, you know what, Zach, I could send you a video, or maybe we could just set up a meeting just with your team. I just don't want to jump into any more demos right now. I kind of want to give people the opportunity to ask what's on their mind.
Hello. Am I back? What did I miss out
Yes,
on?
sir. We were having a party in here.
It looks like it. There's a lot of questions that it looks like I missed.
If we
Any of
cannot,
these unanswered, I could hop in to help those out.
yeah, if I'm on Michael or Michael, if we cannot upload real cost to M2, how do we have accurate costing? So that's a great question. Essentially, the your actual cost, that's something that we're not going to touch for a little bit here, Mike. So we have your budgeted cost. That's just your cost from your proposal, right, with your markup, and everyone knows that is horribly inaccurate. So we have actually something in between the budgeted cost and the actual cost that we are right now referring to as projected cost. So what this metric is it looks at all your money coming in, all your money going out, and reassesses the project that way. So while it might not be 100% accurate, it is using all of your bids, quotes, change orders to calculate your money in. It's using your purchase orders and work orders and a manual input for miscellaneous expenses. That's going to be your money going out. And then the difference between those two is going to be your profit or your margin. So, while it isn't actual cost, we are not linked directly to your bank account, at least not yet. It's going to be much, much more accurate than just your markup on your bid.
Will we be getting into the accounting side in the future? That is definitely something we want to figure out down the line. I think the way we're working on it right now is, and we're only thinking about, 3 years out at a time. We want to finish the CRM, make sure that everything in there has got all the nicest bells and whistles. That's going to be upgrading a lot of stuff, seeing how people think about it. And then we do plan on expanding into things like inventory, obviously submittals down the line if we could. And then we'll see if accounting fits into that program as well, or more like when it would fit into that.
Yeah, I remember when I was an estimator, when I was using this software, not advertising it. I always used to say that, like, just make an accounting system, but if you're spread too thin, it's not good for anybody, so we're nailing down this CRM part. We're going to spend a good amount of time and resources just on this, on your documents, job tracking, and we do have some metrics in there, but the accounting side of it, just takes it to a slightly different level that we're not going to be touching, at least not in the near future. Yeah, it could. Let's see. I don't know, Tom. Send our team an email. Ask for it. Maybe we get lucky. No, it really is a significant investment, and so is the CRM. So, if anything like that is going to happen, it's just not going to be right away. Mm.
Greg's already reading our mind. He's a step ahead with the APIs and connectors. That's already in the works right now. And the idea is that instead of making you copy and paste, we'll give you guys all the keys and the doors that you need in and out of our system. And once that's out, it's just a matter of, you guys would bring on like a software developer onto your team for, no more than like a couple of days, and they could actually set up the connections between our system and whatever ERP you're using, so long as they accept APIs and they have APIs of their own. All right, we're at the hour mark. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to give a big thanks to all you guys in the chat as well as in the webinar that have been with us. As I wrap this up, you guys will get an email with the recording once that's out. And as well, for those of you who dropped your emails in there, I'll send you a direct email as well. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate all the great questions. Catch you on the next one.